And folks at home, if you could find yourself a little rock or something like it that you can hold. So this topic is difficult. I was making scones today for everybody. They're made. They're out there. Scone batter is really sticky. I mean, really sticky. And it's hard to form it into those beautiful little wedges you get in the bakery. So mine aren't. You know, it's like my life, sticky, messy, odd shaped, and wonderful. So the topic is forgiveness. And as they say in some Bantu languages, I ask for peace. I like that better than I want you to forgive me or I forgive you. It's so laden for us that asking for peace feels more to the real depth of what we're trying to do. We're seeking peace. Even if you don't do it in person, the person you need peace from may be dangerous. So this is more, for this talk, an internal process. Um, I take a lot of inspiration from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, as many do around the world. And he and his daughter wrote this book, Desmond and Mofo Tutu, the Book of Forgiving. It has exercises. So I got into this because a couple of therapy clients that I have really need to work on it. It's lack of forgiveness, holding that hardness is wrecking their lives. They're not doing it because they think it's a nice thing to do. They're doing it because they're desperate to make things better. They're doing it because they have to, unless, there's just too much pain around the wounding, and it casts shadows on everything in misinterpretations and twisted meanings that need to be clarified. Even if you can't have an active peace agreement with the person who hurt you, you need to do it internally. You need to let all that stuff go. We all do. Every religion that is, every spiritual practice that is, says, do it. Forgiveness, do it. How do you do it? It's hard. It's about the hardest thing there is. You know, as we say in our Gotha of Atonement, beginning us greed, anger, and ignorance. Yeah, it really is. We don't know where it came from, but we got it. And we got to work on it. Get a rock. Yeah, you can hold. Rocky feels good. Yeah. So Desmond Tutu said, those who say forgiving is a sign of weakness haven't tried it. It's a lifelong process. I've found that to be true. I've dealt with a lot of family issues. My ex-husband, who was a drug addict, wrecked our lives. I tried to forgive him initially, but it was superficial. It was more about keeping him at bay. Oh yeah, starting to throw the rocks. It's okay. It's a tool for all kinds of things. Um, but I found years later I still had more work to do. I hadn't really let go of all that harm. I had not really let go of him. Part of it was an effort to protect my daughter, who was young at the time, and he had tried to kidnap her and take her to his mother in Japan. So I had very hard feelings, very, very, that lasted a really long time. And it always surprised me when they would show up again because I hadn't thoroughly done the work. So it's a lifelong process, as far as I can tell. And the harm I caused him by blocking him, refusing to let him in the house. I relented. Eventually, we met again with a witness, somebody who could witness and help me if we got into a problem in the meeting. He was angry about that. Yeah, yeah. I didn't trust him. No, definitely didn't. And much as you want to have peace and forgive somebody, there are complications like that, especially if it's somebody who's violent. So, just to start with your rock, just bring into your rock any wound, could be several, that you've received in your life, and just let it be a representative, a witness for you. The rock is steady. Rocks don't, unless you throw them, they're fine. They could sit in your hand and witness all that you go through and help you. So, so in our particular peacemaker order, we say that we're all one body. No one's excluded from the circle of life. All of us, men, women, children, killers, killed, people who violate us, people who harm us, people we've harmed, whether we wanted to or not. A billion. We're all billions in one cell, all of us. I am also my ex-husband who harmed me. I don't want to be him, that's for sure. But I am connected to him in a deep way. Very often the wound that comes is solidifies the connection and solidifies our opinions about what's going on and who we are. It's a strong bond. It's a very strong bond. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of dissolving of all of our own views, especially the view of separation, that's not me. Well, it is you. It is me. All of it is. Well, we really don't like that idea, do we? Sometimes. But it's important. It's important to dissolving that really tight, difficult bond of wounding, that harm, that whichever direction it came is something that needs to be dropped somehow. Dissolved, dropped, studied, worked with, whatever you could do. So this applies to everybody. The therapy clients I have, some are incest survivors, torture victims. It's a long list of really horrendous, deep pain. And these people are working on forgiving, forgiving the people who harmed them. That takes courage, incredible determination, deep courage to face that pain. So there's a photographer I really love, um, Sebastio Gado. Anybody know who he is? Ever heard of him? He's a Brazilian photographer, and he has been in every conflict zone up until the end of Rwanda. He witnessed all of that went on in Rwanda, and he took these amazing photos. He was in all these conflict zones, and in and he made photographic books of them. You can actually buy the book and see what he saw. He's bearing witness. He believed that bearing witness to all these atrocities on a mass scale would shift the world to peace. People would see it and cry and say, no, we can't keep doing this. But we are. We're still doing this. It's in Gaza if you look at the news. It's all over. Conflict zones keep coming. So there's a film he did with Wim Wenders, who you may know, filmmaker. It's called Salt of the Earth. That's who he's taking pictures of. He's photographing people in conflict. So it's the regular people, you know, families, people, a baker, an engineer, whoever they are. They are both victims and perpetrators. They happen to go on either side depending on the conflict. It's all of us. He really recorded the worst of humanity for decades. Photos of bodies piled up in a bulldozer, as they couldn't be buried singly. They simply bulldozed them back into the earth. And it's just it's wrenching. It's hard to see. And he was in the midst of all that, well fed, taken care of, funded, not deeply funded. He and his wife really put their funds together to do this. But, he could escape while people around him are dying of starvation, which then led to death from all kinds of diseases or being shot. So what happened to him? This is this is important in doing the work of looking at our wounds. He became so despairing, and it deeply hurt him. It changed him. He couldn't bear it anymore after witnessing such deep inhumanity on a mass scale. So he went back to Brazil, and his wife went back to where he had been born and raised. It's not that small, 600-acre farm in Brazil, but it was ruined when they got there, thanks to poverty. You know, herding cattle destroyed the land. Deforestation, they sold the wood so they could eat another day, and the land was wrecked completely. It didn't have the trees. This was a tropical rainforest. They didn't have the trees anymore. The streams that had been there, all of it. Some of these factors that affected his land are the same things that go into why there are mass atrocities, that we cannot take care of all the people of the earth. We cannot take care of the earth itself. So his wife, who seems to be the brains of the operation, as far as I could tell, she said, let's restore the land. Well, nobody ever did replant a rainforest there before. They didn't really know how to do it. But they started. And in the first year, most of what they planted died. But they kept doing it year after year. The trees came back. All the animals started coming back. There are 400 species that originally lived there. And as they continued to work the land and restore it, the streams also came back. The water was running again on this very hard, dry, treeless land. They were able to give work to people to do the restoration. It took 10 years. And it restored them. It healed them. If you help restore another being or a plant or a piece of land, you're restoring yourself. And he was conscious of that. So that's where, with wounding, we need to work on taking care, loving ourselves. That's what works. You can go into that wound over and over again. You might just re-traumatize yourself. If you do it with love, you have a chance. So Salgado, who I consider like the biggest model of bearing witness to the sorrows is also the biggest witness to the joys. His final project so far is a book out of photographs he calls Genesis. And he began in the Galapagos to look at the the place where Darwin started to invest or did a lot of his investigation of the how species change and come about, adapt and interact with the environment. How does that happen? So he began to photograph there and continued on through the world to all the somewhat or mostly intact places and also tribal peoples who still had their culture. And the photos are beautiful. I mean, they're just astonishing. He's his eye is unerring, his witnessing eye, which may have been refined through all the devastation he'd witnessed as well. But he can do the same for what is beautiful, joyful, connected, harmonious, healthy. And we can too. To me, that's what the process of making peace is really all about. To see ourselves in the wounding and the healing and the love. It's hard. There's no doubt about it. Um, they say that it took 27 years for um, Nelson Mandela to heal in prison before he could become the leader in South Africa and start with Desmond Tutu the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. When apartheid ended, they started that. And I think it's pretty unique in human history to take a situation where in apartheid, people had been put onto what are like reservations, the Bantustans. The black people were put there. The conditions were horrific. People died early deaths from it. They were not permitted to have the work that whites could have or even Asians could have. They could go, if they could escape to the next country, they might have a chance. But in South Africa, if you have nothing, you're not going to escape it. So they ended all of that. Nelson Mandela was elected the president. He said he would serve 1 year. He did. That was it. And it continued from there. But in that year, they began the Truth and Reconciliation hearings, which are, there's criticism of them, of course, everyone criticizes something, even something as amazing as Truth and Reconciliation. The Truth and Reconciliation hearings required, there were 11 different languages and cultures involved, so they had to have translators from all of those. And the perpetrators and victims would meet personally. They were, if you committed a crime under apartheid, if you confessed fully in public, you were given amnesty. Imagine that. Yeah. And the victims also told their stories. Everyone spoke. It was really an impassioned process. No one was left unmoved in this. Nobody. The translators themselves were deeply involved and questioned whether they were truly seeing or hearing it properly and translating well enough for it. It was hard. It's really difficult. So there's a friend of mine was part of a film about this, and the film is called "A Snake Gives Birth to a Snake," and that's something that people would say in response to why children were killed. I mean, that's just so hard to grasp why you would justify killing a child, but that's what was used. And it's used in different ways. Different languages say it differently. Your enemy's child is your enemy. I can't imagine it right now. It's hard. That's really hard to imagine, but it's a reality that exists that we really need to take in this fact. How do we stop that kind of thing? So, the film my friend was involved in followed this troupe of actors. So, Hugh Masekela, do you all know who he is? Jazz musician, South African. He died not that long ago. He took up he took a performing group and he made music based on those interviews that have been conducted in Truth and Reconciliation. And so people are singing at the top of their lungs, things like, my husband's head was cut off. I mean, awful. And then the other side, the person who did it, saying, I'm deeply remorseful. They're singing this. This is part of this performance. And under the belief that art can heal. I do believe it does. And this troupe was actively engaging that and taking it to other conflict zones. They took it to Rwanda, and they took it to Kosovo. They took it to Northern Ireland. And they would do the play and sing the songs and hold discussions about truth and reconciliation process, and fostered continuing truth and reconciliation in these other places. I don't remember the numbers. Numbers are hard to grasp sometimes, but it's something like 15,000 truth and reconciliation workshops spun out of all of that. Truth and reconciliation is going on for Indigenous people. Not all, but it started. In Canada, Canadians have been holding them. I also personally know people involved in that, where someone I know who's now dead, he was raped by a priest in the residential school. He'd been turned in to the residential school by his uncle, who had a fight with his father. So he took the son and turned him over to the priest, where he was abused. In that place, Freda is his name, he would sneak out at night and milk a cow and bring milk in for the children. They were really starving in the residential school. He said a nun one night said, here's a bar of soap. And he's like, why? It's to put it on the window so no one will hear you when you go out to milk the cow. I mean, there are moments of kindness in the worst circumstances, and that helped him to get through that. He was part of the Truth and Reconciliation hearings. He testified. He had a lifelong problem with alcohol. I'm sure Freda doesn't mind me talking about this because he's very open. He wanted to tell his story to help others not have the same kind of fate, not have the same kind of lack of peace from holding the wounds. And that's what the alcoholism was trying to take care of. It didn't work that well. I have this talk I actually wrote, but I'm not even reading it. I'm going to go back to Salgado for a minute. So in his journeys to document what is still great and beautiful, he said that personally he befriended an iguana and noticed he was a brother, and a seal. He found that's a sister. He befriended a whale. He saw himself as part of nature, the healthy part of nature. that does not engage in mass killing. In a natural, harmonious state, that doesn't happen. He stayed with a people called the Nenets. They're an Arctic tribe in Siberia. They live on a frozen river that the picture shows this huge white expanse that goes on forever. So that's their reality. That's how they see the world. And they live there, they hunt there, they have children there for, I don't know, time immemorial, folks. So the forgiveness on a mass scale is also possible. We saw that. We saw that with the Truth and Reconciliation hearings. We could do it ourselves in groups. I believe most 12-step address forgiveness. Yes. And so many others. It's a lifelong process. It doesn't happen fast. The words are easy. The real deep feeling and the true actions that come of it are harder. And that's where the witnessing comes in, the clear witnessing. But you can't do it simply by witnessing the wound. You really need the love as well. That's why we witness everything. You've got to have that, both parts, or it ain't gonna work. You're just gonna keep wounding yourself. Keep going into that wound. It's possible it can lift, but it may be because you already love yourself enough. But if you don't, then you really need to work on that side. I do. So I followed the exercises in this book as to accompany the therapy clients I have. I didn't tell them I'm doing it. I just did it, as a side, kind of parallel to what they're going through. And I did discover things I thought were happily buried and not a problem anymore were not. They showed up. When you call that kind of wounding in and find the things that you haven't fully forgiven, it'll show up. It will come. And then you really need to work again and again. So one of the problems was, for me, is my sister's ex-husband went on a rampage of arson in far northern California. They had been contractors, built houses together. My sister's quite a good house framer, and her ex-husband was a very good builder. But he began to use all kinds of drugs, and a really deep mental illness showed up later. No one knows all the causes of it, but he was labeled bipolar with schizoid tendencies. That's a tough diagnosis. So he burned her house to the ground. The fire was so hot that the fireplace, which was cast iron, melted. Everything was gone. And then he didn't stop there. He burnt the neighbor's house, two of them. And then he went on to this, uh, it's a kind of a forest services building that served the people of that area. It's a rural area. And he burnt that down. He torched their records deliberately. And then he took himself to this golf course where he he dressed up. He's so nuts. I mean, he dressed up in a suit and and had a boombox playing Pomp and Circumstance while he waited for the police to get him. So when the police showed up, he said, "What took you so long?" So yeah, he went to prison. He went to forensic prison, the mental hospital kind, for 7 years. And he's been let out now a few years. He actually lives in Big Bear. I don't mind saying this because I keep track of him. He's a potentially dangerous person. So do I forgive him? Oh God, no, it took a long time. I, I worked on it hard. My sister will not. We cannot even say his name to her. And it's caused her great hardship, psychologically, physically, a lot of illnesses. And she will not let go of that harm. She won't. You know, he called me one day because he was in a 12-step program. And he said, I need to call you and say I'm sorry. Okay, what about? Oh, because I yelled at you one day. What about the other stuff? Oh no, that's not my fault. I'm mentally ill. Right? Okay, I didn't buy that. I said, if you ever call me again or any member of our family, I'm calling the police. So, yes, I can understand this is a suffering human being. I really do. At one point, I cared about him deeply. I still do, but with caution. With caution. We have to assess how we do this, how we continue or not continue a relationship where there's been harm. You don't just say, okay, erase all that. You can't. What's happened really happened. The person who is a danger may still be, and I believe he is. So I wish him well. I wish him to see the light of his own true being. I really do. In this lifetime, it'd be great. So, with my sister, telling the story re-traumatizes her. And she, for a while, she went all around town telling the story to anybody who would listen. It was like the ancient mariner telling his tale. She could not stop telling the story. So one of the first steps that Desmond Tutu and his daughter recommend is telling a story. But you also need to be careful with that. Is telling the story re-traumatizing? Is telling the story just making it more deeply entrenched in your mind? It's like a broken record. You need to do it in a way that doesn't harm. With the people I have in therapy, we do it a little bit at a time. And it's always countered with something that is loving and good in their lives. You have to do it that way. That sounds pretty absolute, but in my experience, that's how it works. It works better if you tap into love that's in your own heart for yourself. Just like Salgado started with himself. When he went back to his ranch that had been destroyed, he began to repair himself and the land together. That works, folks. Believe you me. So in the first exercise in the forgiveness book, it tells you to find a small rock. All right, you all have a small rock. And bring to mind a person who may have hurt you. It could be a few people. So that exercise asks you, and you won't be able to do this here, but to carry that rock in your non-dominant hand for about 6 hours and do all the things you normally have to do. So I did that exercise. I did laundry, dishes. It's hard to do things with holding a rock, you know. And it's kind of amazing because then you see how clever you can also be in adapting to having that rock. like we do when we hold our wounds, when we forget that they're there, that they interfere with our lives, and we work around it. So you still need to, remember that rock's there. Remember, it needs work. It needs care. It needs your own self-care. So when I finally could put that rock down, my feelings toward my ex-brother-in-law flooded me. They don't stay buried. They're still in your body, and they came out for me, and I cried and felt all the sorrow of the damage to my family, to my sister, to him. He's probably the one who is hurt the most. He took his hurt and shared it. Yeah, we didn't appreciate that at all. But he also has to work on it. So my job for me is to put down that rock, set it down, and see what comes. And interesting to me is that it also brought out all the other rocks, hardnesses, wounds that I still need to work on. That I feel like, oh, I did that already. Well, nope. There's some parts of it are still around. This is a lifelong practice. This is about truth, deep truth, and setting it down. Really, really setting it down. You can pretend to set it down, like, okay, I'm setting it down, but you still have it. No, you got to really, really drop it. So I'd like to just now do a bit of loving kindness for our rocks, for our wounds, for what we hold. Loving kindness is Maitri in Sanskrit, Metta in Pali. Bhante Gunarantan, I don't say his name right, but he has a book called Loving Kindness in Plain English. He calls it loving friendliness. This is loving friendliness to ourselves. It's natural, actually, to us when all the rocks are set down, but we can also reach into it even if we're still holding some. So we resolve to be kind to ourselves. We resolve to be our own friend. Resolve to bring out the love that is really present, that is our birthright. So we move from resolve to practicing love toward peace. So we're back to I ask for peace. So Jetsun Khandro Rinpoche, who is one of the probably only female Rinpoches in Tibetan Buddhism, it's a patriarchal culture there, folks, but she broke through and is a Rinpoche. And she says, loving kindness is simply the destruction of the exclusivity of the self and its mental habits. Yeah, back to that, the oneness. Shutting others out, no. Loving kindness helps us to restore us to oneness. So she says that the near enemy of loving kindness is greed, self-centered affection. So the love we're talking about is not self-centered. It's unconditional. It's not about if I get this, then I love myself. The far enemy of loving kindness is ill will, the opposite of benevolence. It's wishing to hurt someone. And that does happen. So we practice this deep, loving kindness that is unconditional as a cure for ourselves. But not simply because it's a cure, it's because it's our birthright. We really have this. So we're reactivating our awareness of it. So hold your rock lightly, this time lightly. If it represents the hardness in your heart, those who have harmed or those you have harmed, but just hold it lightly, like it's like a newborn chick, that's just still got some shell on its head or something that's delicate. So let's let our minds grow quiet and be still. Let your heart be open and receptive. Bring your attention there. Let the words move through. So let's say to ourselves, we say this to ourselves first of all, may I be safe. May I be kind. May I be joyful. May I be awake. May no harm come to me. When facing difficulties, may I meet them with patience, clarity, courage, seeing all obstacles as none other than the path. May my mind be filled with loving kindness. May I be gentle and generous, grateful and calm. May I be healthy in body and spirit. May I be happy and peaceful. May my actions be skillful, my thoughts kind. May I be free from fear, worry, anxiety. May I not be greedy or angry, jealous. May my heart stay tender. May my mind be vast, without bounds. So take another moment here. And then open your eyes, and do you notice a difference in the rock you're holding, in your own heart? So you can do the other exercises. I really recommend them. They're great. There are 4 steps in Desmond Tutu's process. They're telling the story, naming the hurt, granting forgiveness or asking peace, and renewing or releasing the relationship. You have a choice. You have a choice at every step in this. You don't have to do any of it. But if you want to reclaim the peaceful heart that's truly yours, it's a really great process. It takes time, and it's not linear. It's not weakness, injustice, forgetting, easy or quick. And use loving kindness whenever you approach this subject. If you're going into the hurt, also temper it with loving kindness practice. See what's holding you back. Investigate it. So if you do this, if you go deeply into this, is all also what we do in our order: the not knowing, the bearing witness, and compassionate action. The compassion is the act of seeking peace. The not knowing is dropping all of the opinions and beliefs, the hardnesses. The bearing witness, be sure to remember to include the good stuff. It's important. So, some say suffering is a self-centered dream. Trying to hold on to, maintain a permanent point of reference. That's what we're asking ourselves to drop. The unchanging so-called me. Somehow you're going to be able to hold and maintain in the midst of flux. Well, good luck with that. It doesn't work. And you're going to be impeded if you keep holding, if we keep holding onto those wounds. And so in Joko Beck's lineage, one of their chants says, each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. What is it the teacher is teaching? Each moment, life as it is. We're not denying reality. We're working with it. We're aligning and becoming flexible and open and seeing things with fresh eyes. You'll become a better justice warrior if you do this. Guaranteed. I guarantee you can call me if it didn't work. But you do. I mean, there is injustice. We do need to work on it. This process of clarifying helps us to do that better. With fixity, nothing changes. No, that definitely isn't going to change this world. When entering the heart of everything, we can and do change the world. We are changing the world. So start with ourselves. Find the wounds, love yourself, and find peace. Thank you.